In the Heights. The controversy that I don't really understand because I didn't watch the movie, but from what I gather, it's a movie about lat uh pretty much what you would expect to be a Latin crew. Um, I don't know if they made In the Heights movie in the past or if it was
It was
just
a
always a
Broadway
Broadway
show.
show.
Yeah.
But now that Lin-Manuel has, I don't know if he wrote it, but he directed In the Heights, and it's
I
supposed
think
to
it
be
was his
like
first
this.
Broadway show was In the Heights, or maybe it was his first one with
Mm-mm.
any success. Like he wrote In the Heights as well.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, this was prior to Hamilton.
Yeah. In
Okay,
the Heights didn't succeed. I mean, I don't think it like was an utter failure, but it like didn't succeed the way Hamilton did. It didn't have a long lasting life to the best of
copy,
my knowledge. I'm
copy.
also
Yeah,
not a big Broadway buff, so I could be
yeah.
wrong about that, but I do know Hamilton was his first like triumph. In
Well,
the
yeah.
Heights was like
Obviously,
he
I
got
don't
it
think
on
anything's
it was on Broadway. It was like a show, but there's like it didn't really go a long run.
right. I I don't think I would be caught dead watching Hamilton, even though I heard it's amazing. But because I'm just not interested in any of that shit. But
Yeah, I'm
does
not
that make
about
me
to
a
buy
bad person?
tickets.
I also just whatever. Anyway, so people are upset with Lin Manuel because the cast does not seem to represent the culture that is being represented in the movie, from what I'm understanding. There's not as many Latinx people in the cast. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's full of white people
I
or is it full
thought
of black people or is it
so, my understanding was it
just not enough?
no was that it's very narrow view of like the range of like that ethnic group basically. I think my I only very lightly read on this was that people like a lot of people are upset because it doesn't show the diversity within. So it's like a lot of
The
very light skinned, conventionally attractive
I see.
Latin
As a,
people, as opposed to like it ignores like
Afro
Afro
Latinos.
Latinas. Yeah, it ignores that
Okay.
a section of it. So it's like very. I think it's still very. I think it's cast like everyone is like appropriately cast in one way. It's just not showing
Uh,
the diversity of. It's not like we
so
cast a
it's
bunch of white people. It's just that they
right.
also didn't. It's like that neighborhood doesn't really look like that kind of thing. Because it's about like
It sounds like it's more of like a white passing situation. Like
yeah, I think it is
in a
just
way.
also like you very rarely get like this Afro Latin representation from,
And
and
now
it's
that
like for a
they
thing that's
finally
like
had the
so
opportunity.
and from a movie that's so very focused on that, like not like on like Latin culture and stuff like that in this neighborhood,
Mhm.
because I think it's all in one neighborhood. I've never seen the
Uh
movie or
and
the play.
it's in the Heights, bro.
Yeah, but like I don't know if they explore further than just that section or not. Like whatever, but like yeah, it's ignoring something like that. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it stopped it from being hugely successful, and I've even seen articles be talking about like, oh, it does fail in this way, but it succeeds in these. It's. I'm wondering how much if a controversy it's going to actually end up being. If it's one of those things that's on the internet for a little bit and then kind of gets blown over, or if it actually has lasting staying power.
Well, uh he Lynn
I'm certain that
he
he said
came
something
out.
about it. Yeah,
He did. He said they fell short,
yeah,
which is probably devastating to him
yeah,
because this. I think the movie got delayed from last year, obviously because of COVID, and everyone
yeah,
was so excited about this. And I had friends on Facebook who loved the movie,
yeah.
and then afterwards,
The people I know who have seen it have loved it. So I'm certain
right?
it's
But
probably
then
good quality in one way or another.
it's it's odd though because the people that I not odd, but the people that I know that have seen it are all Latin and they've enjoyed it. And now that the controversy's out, they have to be like, oh, we hear your concerns. And now it's like, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
them, so I don't know, but it's like now they have to feel bad about enjoying this movie.
Well, they don't have to feel bad about it. Like, you can acknowledge when things are like not like, if this is the one thing that the movie falls short in, it's not the greatest thing to fall short in, but you can acknowledge like the failings of something you enjoy. Like,
Uh-huh.
a lot of shit out there that misses most everything misses some of the marks that it should
Some sort
probably
of a
hit.
mark.
But
Right.
like, there's also just like the other, not the other view of it, but like I remember, and it's not like a true point of comparison, but like people also get upset about a lot of things. I remember when people were upset about like Zendaya being cast in Spider-Man.
MJ?
Yeah. And people were like, what the fuck? And the directors were like, appropriately just like, it's filmed in Queens.
Right.
It's supposed
Right.
to be Queens, New York. This is
Right.
what Queens, New York looks like. So it has like this wide, diverse cast, but a bunch of nerds were just like, where's my white Queens? It's like, it doesn't exist, bro. Like,
Also,
but
Kirsten Dunst was never casted well, so I don't
yeah.
understand. Like, why were you not more mad about that?
But yeah, it
Um,
so not to say that they're anywhere near similar, but it
yeah.
could be. We do give there's a lot of very vocal like minority groups where it's like it's a small amount of people, not like minority
Mhm.
in like the class sense of it, but like a small amount of people who get a very amplified voice on the internet from people who are outside of that. So,
Uh-huh.
I think it's just whatever your friends think, whatever the people around you think is, as like white people, is probably what we should be like on the side of. If our
Right.
Latin
I mean,
friends
I'm
liked it, they don't have to feel bad about liking it. It's
yeah.
like I don't
Well,
think that's the way
well,
to.
that's what I'm saying. Like, if I had gone to see it, which I probably never will, but if I had gone to see it and I loved it, now I would feel bad about it now because everyone's like shitting all over it. So I'd be like, can I,
Well, but I guess that's the thing. Is everyone doing that?
right?
Like, is it? Because, like I said,
Well,
almost everyone I've talked to thought it was great, and you can
right.
very much just say like, oh yeah, it was fantastic. They could have done this better. That's
Right.
it. You can acknowledge like, oh yeah, it was a great movie in a lot of ways, but maybe the casting could have been a little bit more diverse. Like, that is a fine
Mhm.
opinion to have. You don't have to hate something because nothing's going to change of it right now.
But now
You amplify that idea so that the future movies can be better in those senses, not necessarily like to change this because you can't change it now.
to push back on it, though, I did hear the argument that for Hamilton, there was all the characters were based on real people,
Yeah,
including George Washington and no, George Washington. I would imagine he's probably in there somewhere. Alexander Hamilton,
yeah.
whatever.
Alexander Hamilton is
It's
what?
all people that were in government in
Yeah,
fucking 1895,
yeah,
which is all white people. Yet the entire cast of Hamilton on Broadway, there was probably less than 10% white people.
yeah,
Can the same argument be used for that? Like, where were I mean, I'm sure there were people that were like, why the fuck are you doing this to these characters? Why can't, but I'm sure the outrage wasn't as much. So now why does he get away with that? But then he's getting shit on for this. Is
It's
it a
because
false
people don't really.
equivalency?
Well, it's because people don't care about live performance theater.
Right.
Even as big as Hamilton is, people don't give a shit. Like,
Right. Well,
it's really, I
but
mean, that's
but
the
would
truth of it. Like, people know it and they don't care because they're like, oh, it's Broadway. Who gives a fuck about Broadway? As successful
but
as it
would
is,
they
no one really
care?
cares.
But
If it was a
I
movie,
and I
maybe.
I see your point,
Yeah.
but would they care though if it was if they did a Broadway show based on black famous black people in history or whatever, and fucking some white dude is playing Martin Luther King kind of thing.
Oh, that,
Obviously that
yeah,
obviously
that one.
that would get
Well,
shit on
yeah, I mean,
immediately.
immediately, but the big difference that I can point into is history of being
Mm-hmm.
like there was decades and there was like multiple decades where there basically was like three black actors, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like even every single character was a white person that we didn't give a shit
Yeah.
about, like, so it's,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, oh, if it's an Asian person, we'll just put him in like horrendous makeup, like let's just
Uh-huh.
let's just do what,
And make them.
yeah, like let's just make caricatures out of white people and not even bother
Yeah.
casting, like, oh, unless it's Bruce Lee. Like it's, they let like three people of every different like group become like
Right.
famous, but like it was 98% of everything was just like this white dude in like terrible caricature-esque makeup. So I think
Right.
part of it is like it is like the same thing when you talk about it in like pure black and white terms,
Mm-hmm.
like of should you portray people like from history accurately in the context of like race, gender, and such and such. It's like, yeah, but then it's like, who do you get mad at when they do these things? It's like
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton didn't start off as like a wildly successful musical. I'm certain that like
Right.
Lin was just hiring the best performers that he could hire when it started.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, white people have been
I mean,
erasing
I
different
think that's
ethnicities for
right.
in media for their entire existence of media. So it's
Right.
like to now be like, what the fuck, bro? Is like, well, you could probably get
Right.
probably give people
Things
a
have
little
been.
bit of time before you have anywhere near an equivalent amount of upset about
I,
erasure.
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like things have been whitewashed
Yeah.
for decades.
Yeah.
You can get a pass if you do it once every
Yeah,
now and
like
then.
yeah,
The
but
opposite.
the opposite's just continuing the negative trend versus
Right.
like, so there is, yeah, it's one of those things where like, yeah, you have to use a little bit of nuance in your thinking to be like, well, why is this okay? It's like, well,
I
why?
mean,
Yeah.
right. Like
It's
I
because of
understand.
history, like entirely because of history. But like, eventually, yeah, it either goes one way or where it's like you can throw anyone into the role, or it goes the opposite way where it's like, no, if they're real people, you have to absolutely like cover them accurately, like in all those terms. But I actually think that eventually I'm hoping we hit the point where it's just like, no, I don't give a fuck who it is. Like they nailed the role. Let them play it.
Right.
It's like, fuck it, make.
Uh, but
But
I
we're not
guess
there yet. Is, I guess, the thing. We're still dealing
anyone
with whitewashing
anyone
problems and things
meaning
like that.
well, I mean, but okay, I see what you mean. But that'll take decades and decades.
Yeah, it's probably it's unless there's like some wild like everyone wakes up one day and is like, huh, I guess we were wrong about the whole race thing. Like,
Yeah.
maybe we should stop considering that too much and rewrite our legal system to be a little bit more, balanced and forgiving to everyone. It's like, oh, okay. But that's not likely to happen. So it's probably something that yeah, right, decades, or maybe even more into the future, because it is like you have to kind of, there's going to be like a retraction and then a re-expansion. It's a lot of things are like that historically.
I just think it'll never be okay for like a white dude to play like an MLK kind of character. So it's just a
Probably not.
weird.
And maybe some of that is because like we have actual pictures of him versus
Uh-huh.
like we have like paintings of all these like founding fathers.
I
Like
see. Okay. Well,
it feels
okay.
less real to talk about George Washington and his accomplishments than like Martin Luther King or like a Malcolm X. Like it is
I
like,
mean,
oh,
I
we have photos and video and we can hear them talk from like
I'm sure
interviews that
there's
they've done.
I'm sure there's a good argument that could be made
Yeah.
for Hamilton. I was just bringing it up because I mean Hamilton, it's all hip hop. You could
Yeah.
say,
I
like
think the argument
people.
for why they got away with it in Hamilton was no one gives a shit about theater.
Well,
Like
yeah.
theater kids give a shit about theater and they don't think about these things. Like,
Well, okay, but okay, so let's say they do Hamilton the movie, which I'm surprised, I'm sure is the next step at some point. Do they
I
do they
hope
cast
not.
do they cast do they
I
cast
don't want them to
Hamilton?
do that.
Do they cast Alexander Hamilton as a
Well, I
Hispanic
think
dude?
as Lin, yeah. If it was
You
Lin,
know,
I'm certain that people would be like,
I'm
"Oh, I
sure he
get
would
it."
get
Yeah,
right, obviously because of the show. But let's say
yeah,
he's not in it. Well, no, but even when he left, the guy from Blind Spotting, I don't know his name. The there's the movie Blind Spotting. Sorry,
yeah.
um, the black guy took over. I think he took over, or he was already there on the show.
I
Anyway,
don't know.
anyway, um, you're out. You're done.
You're out.
You're out of it. You're
I'm
gone.
out of it. I guess my opinion of it, like personally, it's just like I hope to see the world where it's like no one cares, but obviously I also understand the current like kind of racial dynamics of being like, oh yeah, white people still, even though it's slowly going towards more balanced areas, still fuck up a lot in media and representation and shit like that.
Hmm.
So it's like there's still a need to actually hit a point where we're representing real populaces better. Like, so one day I'm hoping that no one cares who's cast as what, but it's not going to be probably a day that I'm alive.
I want to be
Because
cast as Martin Luther King, and
you
that's
can't,
really
you're
why
too
I keep
short.
talking about it.
You're too short, buddy.
How tall was he?
Taller than you.
Hold for Everything podcast.